I'm Ty Hines, and I'm giving a presentation on coral bleaching. Throughout humanity, society pursues greatness. In the modern age, these pursuits have brought forth the destruction of ecosystems and other ways of life. One ecosystem having havoc wreaked on it are coral reefs. Many factors come into play with the health and destruction of coral reefs, one of the largest being industrial carbon dioxide emitters. The lack of restrictions on industrial carbon dioxide emitters are causing the severe decline of coral reef ecosystems. As a result, bleaching them to an extreme. Bleaching them to where they can no longer be considered shelter for much of the ocean life calling them home. The causation of coral bleaching can be found in many things: increased global heating, disease within coral colonies, and especially CO2 emissions. All causes of coral bleaching can be tied to climate change, especially with the increase of greenhouse gases emitted within the 21st century. Coral bleaching fails to grasp the attention of others as its main cause, climate change, affects so many other portions of society that are closer to home and well seen. Coral bleaching is a dynamic and complicated issue that involves a web of biological, humanitarian, environmental, and legislative actions. Because the general public does not consider environmental issues in the same volume as they consider industry, naturally the environmental issue is overshadowed. Covering a marginal amount of seafloor, coral reef systems house and interact with a quarter of all marine life in the ocean. Findings of new medicine and bracing for storms also encompass many of the other pluses of saving the reefs from harming. In conclusion, coral reefs house much of our society's desires and safety in them. In response, we should stop the decimation of them from harmful toxins and heat. Coral bleaching incidents have occurred all over the globe. Texas is home to over a dozen small reefs and 4 major ones. Seeing the coastal location of Corpus Christi, local environmental actions tend to be more significant than those of other communities. Currently, there is little harm done to these reefs, but the past bleaching done to reefs, for example in Hawaii, could be foreshadowing for the fate of Texas reefs. Based on the findings from the bleached reefs off Hawaii, it can be better understood how to care and prevent future destruction to our reefs. Climate change related mass bleaching events have become increasingly common, affecting about 75% of coral reefs in Hawaii. Hawaii has had its fair share of bleaching incidents, one of the most recent lasting 3 years. The main cause of bleaching being from the increased oceanic temperatures. Many other reefs, including the Great Barrier Reef off Australia and coral reefs off the coast of southern Florida, have been affected and endured coral bleaching. Many reefs are affected and continue to be affected by climate change, and little is being done to prevent it. The horrendous destruction of coral reefs continues to this day, bringing upon the decimation of many oceanic beings, but society is trying to change that. CO2 emissions are still one of the biggest factors in increasing climate change, and the battle to reduce emissions is still being fought and talked about among legislative bodies and the general public. Recently, the Supreme Court ruled that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, does not have the authority to restrict or regulate CO2 emissions, which now will open our industrialized nation to pump more and more CO2 into the atmosphere, resulting in increased decimation of ecosystems. Scientists, however, are still finding better ways to combat coral bleaching. Through findings in coral reef breeding and coral bleaching predictions, the future of coral reefs are looking slightly better. Coral reefs play an essential role in our society, bringing it endless ecosystems riddled with discovery and safety for passing by sea creatures for safe haven. The current destruction of reefs by bleaching is frightening, as it could harm the intricate way of life for the ecosystems of the world. Though much is being done to prevent and care for reefs, still much more is needed to save them.